Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the CommanderSmiths here with Searching for Spotlight, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. Perfect, right? Green, blue, red, 3/4, first strike, reach. Whenever she attacks, exile up to one target legendary artifact or legendary land card from a graveyard, but mostly yours, and put a discovery counter on it. You may play a card from exile with a discovery counter on it this turn. And then it has raid, which means at the end of combat on your turn, if you attack this turn, create a treasure token. So at the end of combat, I like that trigger there instead of at the end of turn. Um, End of combat allows you to probably cast one of those artifacts or whatever. So, tags real quick. Commander Smiths is a podcast that comes out weekly. You can find our audio everywhere. We've been doing this for almost 6 years on YouTube here for about two ish. But we record live on YouTube every Monday night ish, Monday or Tuesday or whenever we aim for Monday. And again, weekly, you can find that same thing that you can find on the audio. We do a bunch of stuff. Next week, we're going to be talking about the new secret layer that should be coming out. We kind of touch on all the secret layers. And we do duck buildings. As you can see, we talk about certain cards on some other shorts. We talk about Commander, almost always through the Commander lens. And if you enjoy that kind of stuff, highly suggest you subscribe, follow, like, share, that kind of stuff. And then yeah, we do a lot of stuff. Hear me out. Renshai, no. No. Cut blue, add black. Some bad. Come on, take out the blue, add black. Make it chund. Everything else sucks. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You might be a little biased. Let's see here. I want to get a little bit more. Let's see here. All right. So, Lara Croft, already read the card. Pretty sweet. I'm going to kind of do a draw discard type effect and get rid of my own legendary artifacts and then be able to bring them back, and or whenever they're, destroyed, you can bring them back with her as well. I'm more of a little biased. I am very much, yes, you are very much biased. Yes. Yes, you are. I notice that you haven't hit the like button yet, Renshai. I'm a dipshit. All right. So we do cuss, we do proxies. Adam makes proxies. You will see some of them throughout this deck. However you wish. We use the rule of if you own it, then you can proxy it. So every card in here that we talk about, we own in some capacity or another. I remind me to talk about the lands maybe at the end. There's a lot of legendary lands that are pretty cool. Hey, look, there's a thumbs down button. We know one of you now. We know one of you. All right, Tomb Raider, dope. All right, we got batches of cards here. This first bit. Where is the focus point? Down here? I don't like that. Right there. All right. So there's down to about 115 cards that we're going to go through here real quick, give you ideas, see if you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever you want, that's fine. And so that is what it is. And we'll go through it. Go through our card choices. First off, it's going to be mana ramp right here. We got Rattleclaw Mystic. This is one that I'm going to start cutting right off the bat here. Seems like it can be a really cool build. We'll see how it goes. I don't really. Okay. First off, let's talk about legendary artifacts. There's plenty of them, but there isn't necessarily a theme that runs through it. And I like to build the theme decks. And so right now, like they're heavily based in like draw and then equipment. And so this is probably going to end up being, I have about 30 to 35 legendary artifacts in here. There is like a legend theme as well that's kind of there, but not a lot of support cards there for that. So I know that I need to cut in my ramp sections, my draw sections, and then it's gonna start getting hard from there, if you know what I mean. Wink. All right. So Rataclaw Mystic, that is there just because it can hit all of my colors. Also, for a while I had like that Mystic, that artifact that allowed you to play colorless spells off the top. That would also allow you to do morph cards. So that was kind of why that was there. I'm gonna cut it right now because it's not artifact themed. It's not within. It kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Dockside Extortionist, there is going to be a treasure theme. Lara Croft creates treasures, so why not work into that? Sakura Tri Builder, nice little blocker. Also, if you're banking a lot on artifacts, it's nice to have land in general. Honor Worn Shaku taps for a colorless, but you can tap legendary permanents to untap it and get more mana. Plenty of these do not just create mana, so there should be a lot of extra bonus there. Currency Converter, highly suggest this for any like discarding deck that you have. Basically, you're discarding lands. You can tap it to create a treasure or pay two. Also does its own little draw discard thing, but you can tap it and create 2/2s for non-land permanents or spells. And so it's just a great card for one. It's crazy good. Um, so highly suggest that. Inspiring Statuary. This is one that might get cut. Let's just mm, I think there's enough spells that aren't artifacts in here that make this good. And that's the great thing about Inspiring Statuary. I think it's the best 3 drop mana rock out there, but you need a nice balance. And so if you don't have enough artifacts, then it's not really going to be good enough. But I think it's great in equipment deck, which this is aiming for. And if it's an all artifact deck, it's not going to hit enough stuff either. Goes great in colorless Eldrazi decks, I would say, but um, I think it works here. Tireless Provisioner, landfall, creating treasures. We're good for that. Jahira, Friend of the Forest, tapping those tokens for green mana. So treasures don't have to be sacked. Crucible of Worlds, always good to get stuff back from your graveyard if you are in a draw discard deck. And sometimes you can load up your graveyard with enough legendary things that you don't want to get rid of your land. Storm the Vault, excited to play this one finally. It's been out for a long time. I kind of lends herself easy to a Voltron deck. Yeah, that was the other thought that I was thinking was Croft has first strike and reach, so that first strike is really nice. If you can just make her big, you're going to be able to attack with her, get that raid trigger, get that trigger for the legendary artifacts, and then if you can start getting her through, then you're going to be real happy. Storm the Vault gets you treasures whenever you hit 1, 2, or 3 opponents. You get 1, 2, or 3 treasures, and then it can flip and give you mana, blue mana, for as many artifacts as you control. Um, Cards should be really cool in here because it'll flip pretty quick. Urza's tapping your artifacts for a blue mana, also great ramp in artifact decks. Saheeli the Gifted it's here for reducing the next spell by 1 for each artifact that you have. Also creating a little artifact creature. I don't necessarily care about the ultimate, so either way, I'm just plussing it. Joria, ageless innovator. Red and a blue, but taps, put 2 ingenuity counters on her, and then you get to put 2 or less for an artifact into play. Then you can do it at 4, then at 6, and then at 8, however big or however many counters can go on it. But nice thing too is that it can happen at instant speed, I believe. I might have missed that, but pretty sure you can put artifacts into play right quick. Um, Karn, Living Legacy, those Power Stone tokens you can cast them for the artifacts, which you have plenty of. Also lets you dig kind of deep, and then also being able to tap those artifacts for damage if you do get to ultimate it is great. Horde Hauler, Trample, Vehicle, as much damage as it deals, you get that many treasures. Pretty awesome in that regard. Oh, and there's another one in here. Basically the same thing, but you gotta sack it. Let's find it so that we can talk about it. Preview. All right, there we go. RMS Titanic from the Doctor Who set, but it's a 7/1 flying trample, and then when it deals damage, you get that many tokens, as much damage as you've dealt, and then you gotta sacrifice it, but with a legendary artifact, you that's one of those triggers that you can get it back with Lara. Um, Metalworker, also one of the first decks that I'm able to play this in. I have had this card for quite some time, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So taps it, reveal any number of artifacts from your hand. You get 2 colorless mana. You can spend that any which way, how. It's a crazy ramp card. Nature's Lore, just getting land into play. Edge of Autumn, I think, is a kind of a cool include, but it goes and gets a basic land if you have 4 or fewer lands, or you can cycle it by sacrificing a land, which gets a potential legendary land into your graveyard to bring it back if you so wish. 3 wishes, go get a forest, put it in play. Exploration, being able to play more than 1 land per turn feels really good, is fantastic with Crucible of Worlds. And you should be able to draw plenty of cards in here. Um, Curse of Opulence, getting a gold for whenever a cursed player is attacked. Delighted Halfling, protecting all of your legendary spells by using its mana, can't be countered. Um, Bitter Thorn, legendary artifact. Whenever it attacks with that germ or whatever it's equipped to, you get to go get a land, basic land, put it into play tapped. You have Gilded Goose, which gets you a food, just some more of those green or those artifact tokens. Birds of Paradise, easy to include. Perennial Behemoth, artifact 2/7. You can play lands from your graveyard. You can also easy discard it and get that unearth for a turn and get some lands as well. Bootlegger's Stash, tapping a land to create a treasure token. More of those tokens. I don't it seems like a lot, but those treasures can do a lot of work in here, I think. Ancient Copper Dragon, dealing damage, roll a 20-sided dice and get that many treasure tokens. First time I just got this, and so I'm excited to be able to play it right away too. Soul Ring, duh. Mana Crypt, maybe. I'm gonna cut it, and I only include this in here because it's something that I add in if a curve is too high, and then it just kind of speeds things up a little bit so that I'm kind of on par with where I like to play and where my tables normally play at. So I cut it, but I add it back in later once the deck is rolling and I can see where it's all lining up. Sarenth Steel Seeker. I like this one because it's whenever an artifact ETBs, look at the top card. If it's a land, put it in your hand. If not, you can put it in the graveyard. It's an explorer. It's artifact fall explore. That's crazy for 2 mana in my mind. Maria, Scholar of Antiquity. Tap an non-token artifact. You get a green, and you can tap 2 untapped non-token artifacts to exile the top card, and you can play it that turn. So not as crazy with all of those tokens that I'm going to be able to create, but there's going to be plenty of artifact like non-token artifacts. Professional Facebreaker. Um, it's good. There should be plenty of treasures. Exiling the top, whenever you deal damage, you get a treasure, has menace 2/3. I really like it at this point. Karn, Legacy Reforged. At your upkeep, you get colorless mana for each artifact that you have. You can only spend it on artifacts and or abilities. And then it's as big as at least a 5/5, if not more. You got Sword of the Animist, legendary artifact, also legendary artifact. But attack with that equipped creature and go get a basic land. Mox Amber for legends. It is a legendary artifact, and that is my proxy of it right now. Mox Opal, great metalcraft, gets you any color, free legendary artifact. The Reaver Cleaver, legendary artifact, +1/+1 trample, and then whenever you deal that much damage, get that many treasures. Great Henge, legendary artifact, should be pretty good in here. Emery, to get another thing of saying that artifacts can kind of come back from the graveyard. Rael the Everwise. Oh, we're getting into some draw, actually. Let's see there. I got rid of like 2 cards. Let's go through that land package. There's plenty there, right? Great Henge, Legendary artifacts, obviously, we want to try and keep them, so I'm just going to fly through those bits. Um, let's just try and keep all of them that we have here. There's at least one more in here. Bitterthorn. Um, RMS Titanic. That's why I was in the other place. I really want to keep Storm the Vault. I think Crucible of Worlds is great. Um, just trying to. I like Perennial Behemoth. Obviously, I think we go Birds of Paradise, Gilded Goose, Delighted Halfling. Um, Metalworker. I want in. I like Joria. I like Urza. Tireless, Currency, Honor Worn, Dockside. Let's see where we're at even there. Like, I just want these in the deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That's almost too much in itself. Whoa. Is there anything else that I really, really love? I think Maria goes really well. Sarenth, yeah. Obviously Soul Ring. Come on. Um, all right. So Professional Facebreaker, I think can go. Bootlegger's Stash. Let's try and keep Ancient Copper. Curse of Opulence. We can cut Exploration. Just being real aggressive here. Let's not be here all night. The Great Henge is the best card ever made. It's truth and justice. Um, let's do the three vids is Nature's Lore, Edge of Autumn. Let's cut that at this point. I think hmm, that's a big play. I have a couple of X spells that we'll eventually get to, which is nice. I like that little bit. 4, 5, 6, 7. Like those power stones make a ton of sense to make it easier to cast those artifacts. Let's get rid of Inspired Statuary. Horde Hauler, just because it's not a legendary artifact. Let's kind of make sure that we're focusing on that. Um, let's get rid of Jahira and Steve, I guess. It kind of feels bad. I like him so much. Um, Karn Living Legacy. I like that bit where it can start dealing damage if you get there. And then it just kind of hits everything. It's mana, it's some card advantage. Steve. And then it's some damage at the end. So I think that's good enough. Whereas this is just a little one. If that had flying, if it wasn't just a servo, like if it was a Thopter, that might be more considering. And the next spell, there's only a couple spells. Yeah, let's cut Sahili the Gifted. So right now, that was a good cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we still have plenty of mana ramp here to figure, like, we still need to make like 6-ish cuts. That was a weird sound. All right. Let's see here. We're doing drawing. Oh, that was the last one. All right. So card advantage pile. Again, I like that to be in 1520. Same thing with this. So mana is 1520. Doretti may be a good call in that deck. It's in this pile. It's definitely in this pile. As kind of an Emery part. Oh, Emery should be over in that section. Don't look. Don't look. Whoop, Doretti. All right. Rael is there for the draw discard. Once per turn, you get to, whenever you discard, you get to draw that many cards that you discarded. So I really like this effect in a draw discard because you're not necessarily having that like card advantage. So we'll see. Rael is there. Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh. It's there. Draw discard, creating a one of your artifacts, turning it into a 4/4 or their vehicle. And then if you get the emblem, you get to draw a card whenever an artifact becomes tapped. So all of that is sweet. I don't have Oh, the artifact ability reduced by 2, so that reduces, equipment costs, which is pretty sweet as well. So some of these are kinda heavy. Teferi, Master of Time, draw a discard, right on theme, and then take an extra turns. You know, it's there for the draw discard. Dak Faden, draw 2, discard 2, anybody, but it's gonna be you. And then you can, -2, gain control of target artifact. I kind of it being at 3 really sways me to keep it around at this point, and then the bottom doesn't matter. Malcolm, the new scoundrel, whenever he deals damage, draw a card, discard a card, and then you put a counter on him. If he has 4 or more counters on him, you get to cast that discarded spell for free. Um, and also allows you to be aggressive on that raid. It comes down before Lara Croft. I really like it in this deck at this point. Academy Manufacturer, you can't have a treasure deck without having it in there, so that's going to stay in there. Glint Nest Crane, ETBs, look at the top 4, put an artifact in your hand from that. So a nice little cantrip that allows you to dig. Sensei's Top in every one of my decks. Teferi's Ageless Insight, kind of similar to Rael. If you're in a draw discard deck, you need to figure out how to get that advantage. And so whenever you would draw, except for your first draw, you get to draw that many cards. So if you draw 2, discard 2, you're drawing 4, discarding 2 becomes crazy, a lot better card. Universal Surveillance, blue, blue, blue X has improvise, so you can tap your artifacts and then you can draw X cards. This is definitely like a refill the hand type card. But I think I want to go with Teferi's Ageless Insight, Rael, and then El Hamret's um, archive. And so just so that I'm putting cards into the graveyard so I can fill that up and do that bit. But El Hamret's X archive is whenever you gain life, double that up, and whenever you draw extra cards, draw twice as many extra cards. So I think that's nice in there. Universal Surveillance, let's cut that because if I'm doing it, I'd rather do Kamal's Druidic Vow or Sahili's Directive. At this point, the deck's almost more than, you know, there's so many legendary lands that are going into this specifically, so many legendary artifacts. This deck is going to be a lot of hits. Same thing with Sahili's Directive. This has improvise, but so the X's reveal the top cards, put all the legendary permanents into play. That should be really good. I'd rather be doing that than the drawing cards. And Sahili's Directive is same thing, but putting artifacts into play. And it has improvise, so a little bit more potential for big plays. Windfall, we're gonna have the 3 big wheels. So Windfall, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune. So we got those big 3 being able to discard cards in your hand and draw, a lot more cards. Uh, Scroll Rack. This is here. I thought it was a good idea, but I think that's when I had the Mystic. Oh man, whatever that card was. I'm blanking on what it is now though. Mystic Archive? I think I can cut that at this point. A couple of small cantrips along with the draw discards should be good. Ancient Stirrings is nice. 1 green to look at the top 5 cards. Put a colorless card, so that can be a land or an artifact into your hand. Nice little cantrip there. Thrill of Possibility. I wouldn't do this without it being an artifact deck. Like, it's not good enough to just go and, like, look for a land. So, you gotta be kind of heavy. Um, Thrill of Possibility, discard a card, draw 2 cards. Instant speed allows you to kinda do that too. Sword of Fortune Frontier, +2/+2. The nice thing is it allows you to play an extra land this turn, and you get to exile the top card and a little bit of card advantage. I think at this point I'm gonna cut it because I want the equipment to be more legend focused. I like this card though, just gotta find reason to cut. Mechanate, this is another one that I was gonna cut, but I wanted to show it off. It is a common. You may have never seen it, but look at it's 2 blue, 1 instant. Look at the top X cards of your library. where X is the number of artifacts you control. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. So it's 3. I was kind of think of it as like a bad dig through time, but like artifact theme. So if you're looking for that theme, I think Mechanate can be really cool for you. But in here, I'm going more. If I wasn't doing a draw discard theme, I'd have this in here. Frantic Search, basically the best draw discard. Untap 3 lands. Crazy good. Fantastic. Thirst for Knowledge. Draw 3 cards, discard 2 unless one's an artifact. That's a little bit of card advantage. It is 3 mana, which gets a little heavy. Riddlesmith, 2 mana, 2/1. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, draw a card, discard a card. Just repetitive, kind of doing it over and over. Careful Study, sorcery, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Faithless Looting, sorcery, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, flashback. And we're getting into the artifact legendary section. Brass's Tunnel Grinder, brand new from the new set. When it ETBs, discard as many cards as you so wish, and you get to draw that many cards. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you have had a permanent card go into the graveyard from the battlefield, you get to put a token on it. And if there are 3 or more, you get to flip it over, which taps it. And then if you use that mana, you get to discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. So pretty sweet in that regard. We have the Ever-Flowing Well, also a legendary artifact. Comes into play, mill 2, draw 2, and then if you have 8 or more permanents in your graveyard, you can flip it, which allows you to make a given artifact, making a copy. Um, that part is questionable, but it is a draw 2 on a legendary artifact that has an upside. The problem is that I'm going to have so many legends that I don't know what I'm going to be able to want to copy. So we'll see where that goes. Plant Tier of Orthanc, a legendary artifact, scry 2, and it's either dealing damage or drawing you a card. Chimmel, the Inner Sun, 6 mana, spells you control can't be countered. And then at the beginning of the end step, you get to discover 5, basically casting something from exile or putting it into your hand. You got the One Ring, which is a legendary artifact as well. We all know how good that card is. Azor's Gateway, legendary artifact. Pay 1, tap it, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand. And then if different converted mana costs, exile, you gain 5 life and flip it. So you need X amount of cards of different converted mana costs to flip it, and then you can tap it for X mana, where X is your life total. So that can be a big swing. I've never flipped it, but just being able to cheaply draw cards, legendary artifact right on point. Unctus, Grand Metatech. Whenever a blue creature becomes tapped, you get to draw a card, discard a card. Other artifact creatures get +1/+1, and then you can, until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors. So if you really want, you can turn Lara Croft into an artifact, give it +1/+1, stuff like that. I did not cut much there, did I? I like a lot of this. Also, legendary artifacts. Azor's Gateway. So we're going to try and keep the legendary artifacts. Let's just skip right through there at this point. I like the cheap ones. So Faithless Looting feels really good. Riddlesmith, I don't know how much I love it. I think that's something, it allows me to be aggressive too. Thirst for Knowledge at 3 mana might be rough, but I like the instant speed part of it. Same thing with Frantic Search, being able to get those lands untapped is huge. Thrill of Possibility. Let's see how many of these draw discard effects we even have or what we need. I like Brass's Bounties in that, or Tunnel Grinder. But we're not even gonna count that part. I guess we have Ancient Stirrings, Wheel of Misfortune. See, is it weird to think that maybe we don't need the wheels? Maybe we don't need the wheels. Just here or there. I think that's a problem. That I don't know. Because I guess here's the other thing that might open up. We don't need Teferi's, the Archive, or Rael if we have the wheels, because they're kind of competing. Um, I like Unctus. I like these, and so if we don't have the wheels, they're basically a straight swap. I don't have much life gain, and I don't have many instants and sorceries to kinda, like, pump her up very much. I can still attack with a 0/3 to get that raid if I have an unsuspecting person. Um, you're saying not all 3. I'm kinda looking at this and I'm thinking maybe just the 1. It's kinda like either I'm running these or I'm running these. That's what it feels like. Um, and I guess here's the other thing too, is that these are nice hand fill ups. These work with all my extra draw cards, which is nice. And these come down can be really early. Um, but these don't necessarily work with these. Like I get drawing 14 sounds awesome. Um, so I guess the other question ends up being is like thirst for knowledge, frantic search, are those worth it? Are these worth it? Um, that's tough. I know that I can toss a lot of like artifacts, legendary artifacts in that regard, so it isn't as bad. I think I'm gonna cut Riddlesmith just because I can. Um, like I don't know how much it's competing, but I think did I already cut that other one? There's a red Smith from Kaladesh that whenever an artifact comes into play, I get to discard a card and draw a card. That was another thing. I tried to avoid the discarding a card to draw cards and just draw cards to discard cards. Um, Ancient Stirrings is I want to keep Preordain and Ponder just because they're very good. I like Kamal and Sahili's at the end, like a back end, just put a bunch of permanents into play. Since he's divining top, I like the Glint Nest because it allows me to get an aggressive creature. Not aggressive, but you know, avoidance. All right, Dak Faden, we got Teferi and Tezzeret here too. And Malcolm, really. So I like those two. Let's see here. At this point, I like those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Jeez. Um, that might be the bit right there. All right. I think we got to cut these because what we need is the wheels. And I think we need to cut all like a lot of the other stuff. So we're keeping the wheels. I think we can keep Malcolm. I think we can keep Uncut This. I think we can keep Faithless and Careful Study. But then I think we got to cut these 3 Frantic, Thirst for Knowledge, and Thrill of Possibilities. Unfortunately. Um, so they're kind of the earlies. Depends on where my hands are super dry. It's hard to hold on to this stuff. All right. And then 2, 3, 4. Um, I think that's there. Technically, this is there too with the discarding. Yeah, that's I think is feeling better. It feels bad to get rid of Thirst for Knowledge since it's artifact based, but I think we need all the hand refillers. Yeah, bop, bop, bop. I like Tezzeret. Do I care about Teferi? Draw discard every turn. I don't have Rael anymore. And I don't have yeah, Rael would have been nice there too. Yeah. No, I agree. I think a lot of the draw discard the problem with draw discard is it has to be a balance or else you just run out of cards and the game's kinda over for you. And I mean, there's plenty. 1, 2, 3, we don't need this. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish discard outlets. Like that should be fine. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Um, let's look at this curve to see where things are going to. 1, 1, 2, threes. Twos and threes are generally what I'm aiming for. If you're new here, I'm not going to be threes. Where's thick at them threes, twos, one, or heavy, heavy, 1, 1. All right. Like I said, I like the top end there. Chimil, I'm going to be honest, probably would get cut if it's not a legendary artifact, just because I don't necessarily care about the countering. Some other people might, and it's just a free spell, which is probably competing against this, and I'd rather have that going on. Let's cut Chimel. Don't like it, but the One Ring is great. I like both these walkers, but maybe Tezzeret is a bit more on point. Maybe we can cut to Fury. It's 2. There's a lot in that 3 spot, so I'm going to focus on that after. Glint, Azor's Gateway, and Malcolm, they're all 3 of them are right there. I like them allowing to be aggressive. Azor's Gateway is questionable, but with it being a legendary artifact, let's try and keep it around. Preordained Ponder, top, dot, dot, dot. I'm okay with that. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then I know we got plenty. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. All right, let's cut DAC as well. We're at 21 card advantage. I mean, Academy Manufacturer is only there for creating tokens as well. The clues are probably good, but it's probably there more for um, just being able to tap it for mana. But I got rid of Inspiring Statuary, Jahira. I mean, really, we're down to Urza and then that red green thing that it doesn't work with. Let's cut Academy Manufacturer as well. Down to 20. We're going to have to cut there eventually as well. Done all right here. Done all right. Okay, protection is next. Heroic intervention, fantastic. You want to keep that. Wing boots, flying and ward 4, real easy and cheap to come out. So we'll try that. And I like this protection bit because it gives her flying and a little bit more aggressiveness. Spellskite is just really good. I feel like um might be able to cut it. But again, it's really nice. It's cheap, and I'd be able to attack with an 04. Um, the other nice thing is if I go to equip a creature and somebody goes to kill it, I can either save the creature or transfer the equipment over to Spellskite. I can do either of those or both. I don't know. Let's get rid of Spellskite for now. We're gonna have to look at our creature count. Hajar, Loyal Bodyguard, 3/3, only green and a red to come out, but sacrifice it. Legendary creatures you control get +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn. Lara Croft is legendary. So, but we might have to see how many legendary creatures there are as well. Hope of Girpur, legendary artifact, nice and cheap and flying with evasion, and then you can also sacrifice it which ends up in your graveyard, and you can kind of repeat it with Lara Croft a little bit. But then your that opponent that was damaged can't cast non-creature spells, so removal, stuff like that at the end. Um, K9, Mark 1, Ward 1 for all your creatures, legendary artifacts, legendary creatures. So, like that bit, target legendary creature can't be blocked this turn. Also, some evasion. Um, should be pretty sweet. Mithril Coat, Flash, Indestructible, gives Lara Croft Indestructible, and legendary artifact. Shield of Cauldra, going for Cauldra here, folks. But has indestructible, gives indestructible, equip 4. Probably the worst equipment in here, but legendary artifact. Hammer of Nazan, legendary artifact. Gives a free equip when it's on the board and indestructible +2/+0 to whatever it's equipped to. Is it charm? Oh, this is probably another bit where there are other parts of draw discard. So this is into the removal package. And I think I'm happy with all of these protection spells. Getting rid of Spellskite was probably the right call at this point. I'm all right with that. um, Removal, because it can counter a spell or 2 damage to a creature, but it can also draw to discard 2. So I like being able to have that flexibility, and I'd rather have it here where it can be a little bit of removal because we're probably light. Prismari Command, 2 damage to any target, destroys an artifact, but also draws 2, discards 2, and target player creates a treasure. So it does a lot of what I want to have going on. So I really like it in here. Jit, legendary artifacts. It's great on a creature with first strike like Lara Croft, but whenever it deals damage, you get to put 2 counters on it, and then you can remove those at instant speed. So you can give -1/-1. If that creature's a 4/4 and going to kill Lara, you deal the 3 damage for a strike, get the counters on it, remove 1, kill the 4/4 before it ever deals damage to it. It's a nice little like trick, instant speed, but I'm excited about using this one. It's been a little far too long. Sky Sovereign Council Flagship, ETB 3 damage whenever it attacks after being crewed, 3 damage. Also, legendary artifact, 6/5 flying. Filigree Silex, legendary artifact. You can put an oil counter on it and destroy. You can tap, sack it, and destroy everything with CMC of oil counters or less. And so it's a big kind of um, it's going to kill all your treasures, unfortunately. So, but it's a nice little mass thing that's going to get rid of those token decks and go into the graveyard so you can recast it. I don't think you want to do it more than 2 though, because you don't want to get rid of Lara Croft. Hex plate wall breaker. Equipment that comes down as a 2/2, but then can attack and you get another attack phase, which means a second treasure, another potential to exile legendary artifact and cast 2 of them. Same thing, sees the day, extra combats on a sorcery. Basilisk Collar and Gorgon's Head. Death Touch for Lara Croft makes her very hard to kill in combat because she can go 1 damage kill, 1 damage kill, 1 damage kill before anything even deals damage to it. So I like those in here. Ronus's Monument, legendary artifact. Green creature spells cost 1 less, and whenever you cast any creature spell, creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample. So, um, this one is questionable, and I think we need to. It is nice because it's like a boost, but let's get rid of that at this point. Cauldron Complete. Hey, it's a legendary artifact. It is an equipment. It's if it comes down, it's doing some work. Akroma's Memorial, also 7 mana, legendary artifact. Creatures you control have flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and from red. So it does a lot every time it's come down. It's been a ton of fun for me. It's something that I like to put in aggressive decks. Embercleave, legendary artifact, equipment, gives +1/+1, double strike, and trample, and reduces cost for each creature attacking. So, at the very least, it's going to be 5 if you're attacking with whatever you're going to equip it with. free equip on the ETB. Sword of Cauldra, legendary artifact, +5/+5, and exile touch, kind of like death touch, but that first strike is going to exile whatever before it ever gets to deal damage. And Helm of Cauldra, also legendary artifact, first strike, trample, haste, and equip 2. Tenza, Godo's Maul. Creature gets +1/+1. If it's legendary, another +2/+2, and red gets trample. So Lara Croft gets +3/+3 trample for a 1 equip, legendary artifact. Shadow Spear, legendary artifact, +1/+1, lifelink, trample. Probably the best card in the deck. Auton Soldier. It is an artifact. It's 6 mana, can come down, copy Lara Croft, have the Myriad, and so you're creating 2 more copies of her. You don't get the exile and a legendary artifact, but you should be able to get the treasures. So if you have Lara Croft, Auton Soldier, 2 more, you're gonna get 4 treasures and be able to cast. Be able to cast 2 legendaries that you exiled. So I think that's pretty cool in there. The Sixth Doctor, it's fantastic. If you are legend heavy, Planeswalkers, hashtag Team Forest Walk, or even here, you're gonna get copies of those legendary permanents, and they're not legendary. So you get 2 of them. We're gonna keep that. Helm of the Host, legendary artifact, make more Lara Crofts. Passionate Archaeologist, 2 mana, and then your commander creature has whenever you cast a spell from exile, which is those legendary artifacts that you exiled, um, you get to deal damage to an opponent for the CMC of that spell. And that's not limited to once per turn or whatever. So you should be able to do some direct damage for really cheap. Armory Automaton. When it ETBs or attacks, you get to, let's see here. You may attach any number of target equipment to it. That means your opponent's, that means yours. And so if they're just sitting around, it's an easy equip. Now, the possession doesn't change, but your opponents would have to re-equip to get it back. But if there's any, like if it's sort of X and Y, they get that effect, not you. So just keep that in mind. But it's cheap, it's easy, it's pretty nice. Reckless Fireweaver. Whenever an artifact comes into play, it gets to deal 1 damage to each opponent. It's nice and cheap. It is a nice blocker at the beginning. Karn, Silver Golem. You could pay 1 to turn a non-creature artifact into a creature. And then if it's blocked or blocking, it gets +4 minus or -4 +4. So this is I like it a lot, but I don't have any real way to utilize it. It's nice if you have like Mycosynth Lattice, you can, if everything's a creature or artifact, you can turn their lands into creatures. They die because they're 0/0s. Um, it can turn some of these equipment into creatures so I can be a little bit more aggressive, but I don't have a real way. So I'm gonna get rid of it. Legendary artifact. Wish I could keep it around. Gonti's Aether Heart. You get energy for artifacts coming to play, sacrifice it, exile, get another turn. If you have to just discard it, you can get it back later. Emery. Okay, now we're going to be cheating stuff back. That was kind of the random ass pile. Getting stuff back, cheating it. Emery, tap, you can cast an artifact from your graveyard that turn. It comes into play and you get to mill 4 as well. Duretti has the draw 2, discard 2 effect. Never mind. Hold on. Discard 2, up to 2, and draw up to that many cards, which is nice effect. You can sacrifice an artifact and bring one back from the graveyard into play. I don't even care about that ultimate at this point. It's just doing the 2 things I want to do. Master Transmuter. Uh, blue, tap, return artifacts from play into my hand. Put a artifact from my hand into play. Nice little switcheroo. Copper Gnomes. 2 mana, 1/1, pay 4, sack it, and put an artifact from your hand into play. So kind of Master Transmuter bit. Goblin Engineer, go and put an artifact from your deck into the graveyard, and then you can bring back artifacts of 3 or less. Goblin Welder, tap it, sack an artifact. You or another player has to sacrifice an artifact, and they can bring back target artifact. Taunos it has haste, but a red and a blue, tap it, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. So it's got plenty of things going on here. And Peregrine Dynamo doing the same thing, but for legendary permanents. And since you have a lot of legendary artifacts, similar thing going on there. That's that's kind of all the cards. That is 50 minutes, not doing too bad there. Let's go through and see if there's anything that we really want to get rid of. I'm liking Welder. I think Copper Gnomes and Master Transmuter probably don't do much. I think I'd rather have the bringing stuff back from the graveyard. So let's get rid of those two. Dreddy, I still really like that. Emery's great. Gonti's Aetherheart. Now there's a 5 mana version where like if it dies, you get an extra turn, it has to be exiled. I don't have any sack outlets for artifacts necessarily in here, so that makes it tough. Reckless Fireweaver. I still really like doing all that damage, moving the deck along a little bit. Armory Automaton. I like that. Free equip. Passionate Archaeologist. I don't know how many, there's a couple cards in here. I just got rid of Chimmel, which would have dealt that damage. I might have to go through and see how many cards are applicable to that. Let's just cut it. Let's not try too hard. There's a reason to cut it. Let's cut it. It's not going to happen all that time. It's going to sit out there a lot. Helm, Sixth Doctor, Auton Soldier. I really like all three of those as copy effects. I avoid adding. There's plenty of tutors that work in this. I try to avoid doing that. Shadow Spear makes a ton of sense. I like putting the trample's the kicker for me. So +3/+3 and trample's really nice on a first striker. Especially with any of these other equipments. Sword. We're gonna keep the Cauldron stuff. Embercleave is great. We'll keep Cauldron complete as well. I like the Death Touchers. So the question ends up being is like extra turns, does that matter much? I like this one because of the flashback. That's kind of why I was doing it. Also the secret lair art. Come on. So I like that from the aspect that I can discard it and set it there. Hexplate Wallbreaker, extra combat. Yep. Yep. Let's see how many cards we got. We did some good cutting there. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. 25. We'll say 30. And then we'll go like CMC after this. 2. 15, 16. 25. 30. So that's 60. 25. So we're at 85 cards. Not too bad. If I could probably cut another 20, we'll be doing good. So let's do a CMC. Let's see how it's going. And then I think we'll probably go through and see what's doing what. Like specifically draw, specifically ramping, and can do both and then go from there. So, all right, 2, 3. Normally, also, what's going on? Normally, I will put equipment where it's their equipment cost as well, but I'm going to avoid doing that this time. 4, 5. There we go. 2. We'll say this will happen mostly at 3. 7. This will always be a 5. 4, 3, 1. 6, 6. It's always a little rough. 4, 3, 2. Almost always be a 1 there. 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2 and 2. 2, 2, 2. 3s. Just be real aggressive on that discarding. 4, 2s. I'm going to have to do a count of how many legendary artifacts still in the deck as well. Blindly cutting can get rid of what you're trying to do. You know, we don't necessarily want that. 3, 4s. But I can always add them in later too. 3, 4, 3 and 2. We're pretty high on the ones. I'm happy with that at this point. All right, let's get rid of the smaller piles. Honestly, I'm pretty happy. Great Henge, Saheeli Directive, Vow, Memorial, and Cauldron Complete. I'm happy with all of those being there. So we'll keep those. Ancient Copper Dragon, Gaunties, Six Doctor, Auton Soldier. I'm not displeased with any of those either. Ancient Copper Dragon has the potential. And since I'm saying it, maybe I should do it. Let's just believe yourself. Getting rid of a lot of treasure makers. So should be thinking about that too. So I think I'm happy with that. 5 spot, Perennial Behemoth, Karn, Embercleave, Hexplate, and Sovereign. Plenty of discarding. I use fetches, and so the land part, I'm into it. Sky Sovereign at 5 is pretty nice. Embercleave. I like the idea of Karn in here. I like the idea of Behemoth, Embercleave, clearly, Hexplate, and Sovereign. Yeah, I think we'll keep that. That's feeling a little thick at the top end, but I think it'll be all right. All right. At that 4 spot, feels about normal. Urza, I think, is going to be really good in here. Storm the Vault, I think, yeah. Or Titanic. I think Tezzeret's going to do a lot of work in here with that reduction. I hadn't thought about the equipment reduction cost to begin with. So that's where that's going to come into play and kind of solidifies it in here. Also, being able to turn those vehicles into just creatures and not having to crew them is going to be nice. Malcolm's, I think, going to be really good being aggressive and having that draw discard, casting stuff for free. 1 ring. Yep. Karn. I think it's good, right? I want it in there at this point. It's not. Man, look at that many cards. So if I pay like 1 or 2, then I can cast something, but it's just like a little draw thing. I don't know if I like that part, but it's some selection. Kind of like Mechanate or Dig Through Time, but for artifacts. I think this is why I was thinking Scroll Rack would be nice. There are a handful of cards, but I think they've been cut since then. I'm not going to add in Scroll Rack. Let's cut that for now. Shield of Cauldra. Yep, I want to do Cauldra in here as well. Hammer of Nazan. Scrap. Duretti is perfect. Helm of the Host. Yep. And Sword of Cauldra. We're doing it. We're doing it, folks. Unawarned Shaku makes a ton of sense for me. Tireless Provisioner also makes sense to me. And if it doesn't, it'll end up being replaced with like Inspiring Statuary or Jahira. Probably the Statuary. Metalworker, I want to play with it. Crucible, yep. Bitterthorn, yeah. Yep. Myria. All right. Tap 2 untap non-token artifacts you control. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. I guess I have Sensei's Top, which kind of works for both of them, but I think that works. I think that works pretty well. Palantir, yep. Well, yeah, we're gonna do the 3, so we'll probably always hit at least 1 bit or 1 hand refiller like that. Unctus, Brass's Tunneler, Mithril, yep. Legendary artifact as well. Peregrine Dynamo, I think is really good. Army Automaton is like if Lara Croft doesn't stand on the board or I'm not getting enough mana to equip those things, but able to cast them. Tensa kind of feels weak. I like the trample. I like it, but I think we can maybe cut that at this point. Helm of Cauldra, we're doing Cauldra. So Seize the Day makes sense to me. Prismari Command. We got a couple of cuts there. 1, 2. And it doesn't feel outrageous. Dockside, yes. Joyra is going to do some work in this deck, I think. It'd be probably nice if I had some untappers to just really move it, but Sword of the Animus, yeah. Sarenth, yep. Azor's Gateway. How much do I like that? I know that we're high. I know it's a legendary artifact. But I know we're high on that draw. And I kind of stole this from Treebeard, where it thematically works with the high life anyway. And also exiling cards from the hand is not what I'm doing. So let's cut that. Glint Nest, yes. Heroic, yes. Wing Boots is nice. Hajar, another indestructible bit for the legendary creatures. We'll see how many we actually have after a bit, but those two make a ton of sense to me. Taunos copying some of those triggers. Um, More equipment doesn't necessarily mean better for Taunos. Um, so I might have to go through and check that out. But I think there's plenty of things going on there. Goblin Engineer, putting any card into the graveyard is going to be pretty good here. Reckless Fireweaver is becoming less good the more token generators I take out. So maybe there's a reason to get rid of it. Filigree Silex, its removal. Let's keep some. We kind of got to keep that removal in there. Jit and Charm. All right. I like both those in there. Last pile for ones. Drink some water. Discarding plenty of cards. So we will. I think we really like this one. Making treasures. Yep. Yep. Birds of Paradise. I should actually look at the Mox Amber wording in the middle of making some proxies. All right. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Maybe Mox Amber is worth a cut here. Mox Amber is probably worth the cut. Because if it doesn't, I'm gonna be there's probably worth it, but worth a cut. Mox Opal. I know I can get rid of some of my ramp. Soul Ring, Looting, Study, Top, Ponder, Preordain, Hope of Gear Pure, Legendary Artifact, dot. I'm liking all of these. There's a lot of work in that one spot. My one drop pile is not normally that big. All right. Number one, let's go through and see how many legendary artifacts there are at this point, making sure that we're not getting rid of too many. And so, because that's still what's going on here. We want to make sure that we have some work to be done. you know, we'll have to check on. Let's see here. Still doing all right. It looks all right. All right. Not quite half, but that's all right. Like I said, I was 30 to 35 last night. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 4, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. I've only cut a handful then. That's not too bad. The other thing is we want to look for, we know these are all artifacts. Let's find the other stuff and look for Taunos and see how many cards that actually can affect. Because if it doesn't do enough, that makes it tough. Taunos is right there. All right. So Taunos, copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an artifact source. You may choose new targets. Okay. So these are all the artifacts in the deck at this point. Let's see how many that it can actually affect. No, no, technically yes. No, not worth it. Activated or triggered. Yes. No, doesn't really matter. That could be nice. That could double the mana. Whoa. No, no, yes, no, double the myriad. That'd be good. No, not necessarily. Yeah, I guess that could work. That can work. No, that is a trigger, so adding more counters could be nice. That's not going to do anything. Double the land. No. Copy the copy? Kind of. Not really. Double up on the discard draw? No. Double up on the drawing. Trigger, trigger, trigger for getting the treasure. No. Yes. No. No. Double the drawing? Yeah. Double the that. No. Yes. On the extra turn, the draw. No, no. So right now, there's plenty there, I'd say. 2, 3, 4. 20, 22. Yeah. I'd say he's worth keeping at this point. Um, let's see here. We saw how many artifacts we have, which is plenty. Let's see how many, well, we could do our own thing. Let's see how many like cards we're going to have, like just drawing. Anything that'll gain me some card advantage. And maybe at the same, well, we'll do that later. All right. Anything that'll get me a card advantage. Draw a discard. Cantrips work. Technically, that probably works as well with the bringing stuff back from the graveyard, but questionable. Tireless. No, that's a draw discard right there. Discard. Technically, that could be. We'll allow it. Yeah. Let's see here. Draw me cards. Let's see here. Almost done. That's a draw discard. That's a draw. All right. Let's try and focus on reducing this. 1, 2, 3. Let's put this in an order. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, excuse me, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. All right. So more than enough. Let's say that. We like those. 3, Directive, Vow, Great Henge. We like Tezzeret. We like Doretti. We like Urza. And we like the One Ring. Hard to fight against any of those. Let's see here. We like the Wheels. Prismari Command is kind of competing against that. Everflowing Well. Unctus. Ooh. Ooh. Really like the idea. Like Myria being able to do draw and mana. Wowza. I like Windfall. I need the removal. Am I gonna end up cutting Wheel of Misfortune? I think so. Okay. So we're down to 2 wheels like Renshai was asking for earlier anyway. If I had just listened to him, we'd be fine. And then these are all legendary. All right, 2 spot. I like Is it Charma's removal? Sarenth is just an artifact fall. That's quite good. Oh no, we're in trouble. We're in trouble, I think. I don't know what let's get rid of Ancient Stirrings. I think we can cut that. It's not a discard. It would be nice to play with. It's been years. It's great in Tron list for modern, or used to be at least. Green Tron. How many draw discard effects are even in here? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's so much later. 11. I'm gonna say currency converter can go. Probably not going to be consistent enough in discarding to make that worth it in there. Okay. Cut 2 down to 25. Yay. All right, let's look for mana. And I really value the draw or the card advantage and mana advantage that can be created. So we're looking for mana. That can get me more land. I got rid of exploration, which is kind of rough. All right. Mana. Looking for that stuff. There is a treasure to be had. Technically that on the free play. So like I kind of value these all pretty high other than Sarenth. All right. Manas. Go get a land. Treasures. That's mana. here. Oh, that's quite a bit too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 27, 28. So just about the same as that. So we're happy. We're happy. Sarenth, I like it as just like a mill card. Like able to churn through the deck in my mind pretty good and getting land in the hand. Getting rid of exploration was kind of rough, but also being able to just discard land is going to be nice. Metalworker, yeah, Bitterthorn, Reaver Cleaver, RMS, Karn. Perennial Behemoth probably can go. Since we don't have the exploration, it's not a legendary artifact. And technically we got Lara Croft. So maybe we're just happy with that as the second bit. Ox Opal. I really like Storm the Vault. I like Tireless Provisioner. I don't necessarily care about that food, but the treasure is going to be nice. Joyra. Yeah. I think we can get rid of Gilded Goose. Um, we got rid of basically all the other food producers. So that's just not going to be consistent. And I don't want to play it to create tokens. So that's 2 down, 26. Yay. Getting there though. It's starting to feel normal sized. um, let's see how many creatures we have. Because we have Hajar and see how many legendary creatures we actually have that it works with. We'll look at the vehicles. So Hajar. Let's see here. All right. Nope. That counts. So Hajar sacrifice can save Lara Croft, Unctus, probably the Anton Soldier, Hope, which is probably already sacked anyway, Canine, Peregrine Dynamo, Sky Sovereign if it is crude, Six Doctor, Emery, Taunos, Urza, Maria, Malcolm, RMS, if it's crude, Karn, Joyrun. There seems like enough. Plenty. There's more legendary creatures than non-legendary creatures. So I'm happy with probably Hajar being there just as an extra bit. I can't bring them back, unfortunately. That'd be nice to be able to loop them somehow, but where are we at? Ones, twos, threes, fours. Let's separate it into card types and see where we're at there. So creatures, artifacts, all that jazz. So these are all I already did creatures, I guess. Vehicles probably should be somewhere else, but they're not going to be. Instant. Plenty of artifacts here as well. Kind of already half did my work for me. Or I should have just done it first. Sorceries, walkers. A nice little way of just kind of getting it all done. Artifacts. Shouldn't have a whole ton of enchantments just because it should be weighted towards the artifact. Walker, sorcery, instant. So we should be, yeah, 2 enchantments. I'm not mad about either of these. Um, Curse could potentially go, but the gold are really nice because if you have something tapping it like Urza, then you can still sacrifice the gold for mana as well because you don't have to tap gold. It's pretty sweet in that regard. I think I like both of these planeswalkers. I like both those enchantments still at this point. Instance at this point, heroic, is it, and Prismari command. I like removal, protection. I kind of need all of it. Pretty thin in that removal department. Um, Probably still looking for cuts. I like the hex plate equipment oversees the day, probably, but they're probably interchangeable. So if we feel like that equipment's getting in the way and we'd rather be able to discard it, then we can always put seize the day in. I would say that. So that's an okay cut. I like these two as that. I like these. This is almost ramp. But just big plops of permanence coming into play. Preordained Ponder and Top, just as a little bit of controlling. And I like Careful Study, Faithless Looting, and then the two big refills with Windfall and Wheel. I think Wheel of Fortune's always, I think it's in this deck for sure. Windfall could switch with Misfortune if we so choose. It probably depends on how quick our hands are emptying versus everybody else in that regard. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do artifacts kind of last, but let's look at our curve for the creatures. 3, 4, 2, likely a 1. That's a sixer. 3. We don't necessarily need it to be aggressive, but we do need to be able to make sure that we're having like creatures we can kind of attack with to hit that raid. 3, 2, 5, 2, 5, 2. Joy was real cheap. So she's gonna be fantastic. All right. Goblin Welder. I think that makes a ton of sense still. 1, 2, Hope, K9, Emery. All of these seem pretty good in that spot. Joyra's going to get some work done. Malcolm's pretty nice and aggressive. Draw discard, protection, cantrip. Sarenth is probably going to get a lot of land into my hand. I think that's basically explore. That's explore for artifact. Artifact fall explore. Just without the 1/1 counter on it, but getting cards into the graveyard is going to be pretty nice in that regard. Goblin Engineer. Dockside Extortionist makes sense. Townos makes sense. In that regard, I don't have a problem. Armory, Automation. I do still really like that. Metalworker makes a ton of sense. Unctus, Peregrine Dynamo, Maria. I might end up getting rid of Tireless Provisioner as well. And then we'll just see how that production happens. So at this point, we're getting rid of a lot of treasure production from where we were at the beginning, which may or may not be bad. Like, I'm not worried about it by any means. RMS and Urza, yeah, those both make a ton of sense to me. Urza and Sky Sovereign, also yes. And Auton Soldier and Six Doctor, yes. Um, all right. Great Henge. Let's see here. All right. Bitter Thorn, Reaver Cleaver, Soul, All right. Mox, Auto-Worn, Crucible, the One Ring, Well, Orthanc, Top, Grinder, Hexplate. I do think one extra should be fine. Chroma's Memorial, Cauldra, Embercleave should be fine right there. Cauldra, Hammer, Coat, Sword, Helm, Filigree Silex, Shadow, Wing Boots, Basilisk with the Gorgon's Head, Gaunty, Helm of the Host, and Jit. So these are the three big ones. It sounds weird to hear like say this, but Great Henge might not be the best here. Um, but it does both, and it gains me a little bit of life. That life gain doesn't really matter because I got rid of Archive. Um, let's get rid of Henge. Ugh. Ugh, that sounds bad saying that. But really, like, how much am I going to be able to reduce it? I took away. I don't know how many equipment I'm even running at this point. Um, this is still good at 4 or 5. Um, we'll keep it. That's a bad idea to cut Great Henge. Chroma's Memorial, Cauldron Complete. Feels pretty good. I like Conti's Aether Heart. And I like Embercleave and Hexplate. Helm of the Host. Cauldra. Yeah. Yeah, that's all there. That is all there. Or think. I'm getting to a point where it's going to get pretty hard. I like that. You know what I mean? Woo! Oh, there's only 2, 3, 4 there? Ugh. But the Silex isn't going to kill me as bad if I'm getting rid of more of those tokens, or if I'm more aggressively using them as well. Wing Boots, I think it's going to do pretty good. But I have what? Death Touch makes a ton of sense to me. Shadow Spear. Oh boy. All right, let's get a count on, and if I'm down below 80, I think I'm going to call it. So, and I think I should be. But 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12. 38, 39, 40. We're going to be down there, 40. 72. 72. So really only 10 more cuts, but I want to go through a little bit of the land base and just some of those legendary lands that you can potentially do. Then we'll just cut it. All right. Unorganized. So, but we will work our way through it. So some of these is where I was kind of putting the proxies and stuff. So dot, dot, dot. All this dust was an option there for a bit. All right. Jit. Got the treasure. All right. Misty. Mines of Moria, legendary land, which is nice. Rivendell, legendary land. Nykthos, legendary land. I don't know how well that's going to do because colorless is so prevalent in the deck. So that one might not make the cut. Invaders Fair, perfect. Legendary land, artifacts. Yavimaya Hollow, legendary land, reserve list. Get yourself some. Plaza of Heroes cares about legendary lands. Fanghorn Forest, legendary land, turns everything into a forest. Academy Ruins, bringing artifacts from the graveyard to top the library is legendary land. Croft Manor. I think that we'll have to go through a couple more. Let's see. Oh, the other nice thing is going to be Boseju, um, Otwara, the cycle lands because they are legendary. Exile them with the Lara Croft trigger. Replay them. Urza Saga is legendary as well. I believe it's a legendary land. Sometimes that shit gets weird. Um, because if it's not going in there. Minimo probably won't make that cut either. But there's plenty of really cool legendary lands out there as well. Gaia Reach Sanitarium might need to make it into this deck. I don't know why it's not on this pile. So yeah. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got some ideas. If you're going to build Lara Croft, let me know what you're thinking in the comments. That'd be really great. And then I'll do my best to comment back. Hey, if you enjoyed it, remember to share, like, subscribe. Go find the CommanderSmiths or just da 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 here. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.